So in the court, the people who are usually standing on the left are the government side advocates, and I'm not used to taking that role. So it feels odd to be addressing you from the left. Thank you very much, Karnataka University, for calling me. It gives me a chance to peer back into history and see how I have started in this profession. I am an accidental lawyer, as many of my generation were. Law was hardly a field you chose because the quality of education was indifferent at best and poor at worst. We came to law without without expecting anything. And we just made our way through. What you, ladies and gentlemen, have before you is a wonderful structured teaching mechanism. The mechanism is fueled by excellent infrastructure, well-qualified teachers. All our teachers in my college were part-timers. Teaching is a special skill, and it's not necessary that all lawyers know how to teach. In fact, few of us know how to teach. And academicians who are specialized in teaching do a much better job of it than part-timers used to do in our time. You have the wonderful support of electronic legal research tools. And what lies ahead of you is an exciting journey. Now, I'm going to stray from the topic a bit. And success as a junior lawyer is not something I know anything about, because as a junior lawyer, we were all struggling. So that brings me to my first point, which is that success as a junior lawyer comes when you cease to be a junior. And the first learning from that is, don't expect that you will be bossing it in the first 3 years. The legal profession is not a profession like IT or coding or design, where you get a front-end payoff. A brilliant 26-year-old designer will make her fortune, create a company, sell it off at 35, and then go to Bali and live for the rest of her life. Lawyers can't do that. Our payoff in terms of success, recognition, and money comes at the back end. So if you want to abandon it in pursuit of quick results, abandon it now. Save the seat and save yourself from the drudgery of 5 years. If you're going to stay the course, then remember what is the role of a lawyer. Jean-Jacques Rousseau said, man is born free. Anybody can complete the quote? Man is born free, but forever lives in chains. And if you see the history of law, what I call big law, law with a capital L-A-W, not laws, is a continuum based upon the evolution of society. So that which defines society, the underpinnings of a civilizational process of society, is the development of law. So you started with a bunch of groups of people who were, one group being stronger than the other, would in that time actually consume the other group. bring it within itself. And they organized themselves in loose groups where might was right. As agriculture developed and settled residents developed, then the need came to organize society. So they appointed a chief or a king. And usually the strongest man became that. And he, or usually it was a man, that time he would lay the law down. As it were, there were pronouncements which he said that this is the standard of behavior, and then that behavior had to be followed on pain usually of death, or at the very least expulsion from the group. Then more enlightened kings came, more enlightened rules came. We have the rule of the Persian kings, Cyrus, Darius. We have the rule of the democratic city-states of Greece. And we have the enlightened rule of Rome. Rome is actually, Roman law is something which is still taught in the English system of law, which we have somewhat inherited. And that is the proto-law or legal system of Rome, which is till now being argued. That time you had the office of the advocate. You had the concept of engaging an advocate. And the person who went to engage him was his client. And the advocate, might take on the cause of a client for a fee or without a fee, and for gaining prestige, gaining power in society. And thus, the very job of the lawyer was to be somebody else's, I don't want to use the word tool, but he was the agent of somebody else, but he was much more than that. So, the society's evolution is more and more, as we have progressed, the coming out of the individual from under the yoke of state, rulership, arbitrary diktat, and even now the measure of an evolved society is not on the basis of how strong the government system is, but it's always on the basis of how strong the individual rights are and how well they are protected. And that is the job of the lawyer. Our job, even for the junior and more so for the junior, is to ensure that the rights of the individual are privileged over the rights of the collective. Now, this is not a very fashionable notion nowadays, because collectivism and statism have become the order of the day everywhere in the world. And it is believed that the greatest good of the greatest number is the ultimate goal. Bentham said that, greatest good of the greatest number. But that argument falls down, because if you take the individual out of the frame, then the greatest good for the greatest number may well be achieved by killing that individual. And that is hardly civilized. The typical example is 7 people are marooned in a boat on the high seas, and the greatest good of the greatest number is dictates that you kill one of them and eat his flesh to stay alive. But that is hardly a fair or just or legal society. So the first job is for us to recognize that the law has been a continuum whereby greater and greater rights of individuals are guaranteed and made enforceable. We particularly come in at the enforcement stage because very many systems guarantee rights on paper, but the enforcement of that is the second part of law. So the making of the law, keeping the individual front and center, and the enforcement of the rights of those individuals or of that individual is the second part. And as according to how good the law and the enforcement are, we recognize evolved, just, fair societies. So you as lawyers in the future, whether you are advocates, to a lesser extent if you are not litigators, but nevertheless if you join, say, a firm, or you join a big law firm or a company, you will always come up against your entity at odds with somebody else. Either it is the state or it is another entity such as yourself. And it is your job to pull for your entity or your client. Now, I earlier said that the lawyer acts as a tool or an agent for his client, but that is actually giving only half the definition. Because it is no part of my duty as an advocate to function according to the wishes of my client. You think that that is contraindicated, but I'll elaborate on that. My job as an advocate, and yours will be as you become, is to represent the interest of my client, not her wishes. Because they are not trained in the law. They don't know what the intricacies are. They don't know how the court system works, for example. They don't know how the bureaucracy works. And they will tell you, "Saab bas itna kar do." And then we'll be happy. But you will have to advise them against it. So you're now to go into the nitty-gritty. Your job is to interface between the person who seeks legal assistance or recourse and the rest of the world. It may be her interaction with the executive, with the bureaucracy, with other individuals. It may be a criminal activity which your client is accused of. And please abandon all those notions. I'm sure somebody must have asked you. At least 10 of you must have been told jokingly by some relative or friend कि अभी तो तुम काला का धोरा और धोरे का काला करोगे. ऐसा कभी नहीं होता है. Nobody has come to me in 30 years and said, "Oh sir, I am guilty." They will always say that what is about to happen to me, I don't deserve it. So you can go to sleep with a clear conscience. Nobody is going to come you with a dagger dripping with blood and say, "Save me." If they do, please call me up because I'd like to see that dagger. I have never come across such a person. So be that interface between the person who wants assistance and do not apply your moral judgment. Just as a doctor will treat an alleged murderer with the same degree of care as he or she will treat a saint, so also is our job as lawyers. Please do not make the mistake of saying, "Oh, I will not take cases of this type." Because then, this is the third point I make, that your job is not to judge. We are in an adversarial system. An adversarial system is predicated upon a neutral umpire, as it were, standing behind the stumps. The bowler bowls his ball and the batsman hits the ball and scores runs or gets out. The umpire is in the field of play, but is not a player. In the adversarial system is based upon the concept that I will pull for my client within the framework of law. My learned opponent will pull for his client within the framework of law. The judge's job is to see that we stay within that framework and decide who has a better case. Do only that and you will be an excellent lawyer. I'm sure sometime in the future they'll teach you, or it will be part of your reading, about Gandhiji's experiences as a lawyer. That's actually poor encouragement for those who are in the legal field. Because Gandhiji was a great man, but not that great a lawyer, truth be told. He had other qualities which outshone his approach to law. And if we are to have his approach to law, it will work only if everybody has that approach to law. So, like communism, it's a great system, but somehow nobody seems to like it. They all want to leave and come away. So our job is this. Our job is to be an interface, and when you are a young lawyer, that's my brief. So, as a young lawyer, the measure of your success is how well you represent the class of litigant who is at the very bottom of the pyramid. Because the rich dudes will go for the senior lawyers. Even in a complicated case, they don't have the wherewithal to be able to afford the so-called best lawyers. So you be their best lawyer. You be their knight in shining armor. You be the one who takes on the whole world to stand with that litigant who is at cross purposes with either the society or with somebody else. And in that process, you will have fulfilled your karma as a lawyer. Because as Arjun asks Krishna Bhagavan, that how can I kill my brothers? So in this, how can I, as a lawyer, you say, how can I defend this person who is a rapist, child molester, drug runner, whatever? To that, I refer you to what Parthasarthi said. He said, your dharma is to be a warrior. So we are warriors by other means. That is the measure of evolution our society has undergone. That earlier the issues which we used to sort out by war, now we file a civil suit, or now we file a criminal complaint. That is the measure of civilization. So your dharma as a lawyer, and I use dharma in the sense of duty, not narrow religious affiliation. Your dharma as a lawyer is to do the best for your client without breaking the law. The best you have to do for your client is to see that she gets justice according to law. Justice according to law, because the higher form of justice which we are so frustrated with not getting in this world is actually not available in this world. It is available in some other higher or parallel universe. So that is that justice which is illusionary and elusive. So don't hanker after that. Let's be happy with curing the patient who has come to us. Now, at the end of 5 years, you'll be clear where you want to go, or you may not be clear. Broadly, the way things have developed in the last 10 years is that some small percentage go for litigation. A largish percentage, your professors will guide you better, will go for legal activity but in organized law structures. That is to say, law firms or general counsel for companies. Those are the two broad divisions. I speak with greater knowledge about advocates. My parents were both bank employees and they didn't even know what lawyers did. So when I passed my law and then I said, okay, now I'll practice, and they said, पैसा कैसे आएगा? I said कि हमारे एक senior है, senior will give us some paltry amount which might cover my petrol, and then I'll get some clients, I hope. He said, अच्छा, and what if you don't get a client in a particular month? I said, maybe I'll call you up. Call you up to pay the electricity bill. So that is the worst that you can expect. The reality now is that, at least in the High Court, cool dudes like my learned friends here, from the first day they came in their cars. So nobody is that impoverished. But yes, get set for that. If you're good as an advocate, other advocates will engage your services and clients will come to you. Rely upon it. With video conferencing more now, but back in the day also, when I was a lawyer, young lawyer, we had a lot of walk-ins. People, illiterate, but not uneducated people would come and say कि आप हमारे तरफ से आओ. The other side is the corporate law. And I want to do corporate law, I want to do arbitration, I want to do international arbitration, I want to do international law, I want to do sports law. All that work is well ahead of you after you graduate. Don't make up your mind to do that right away. So, because it's silly, in 4th year you say, I want to be an arbitration specialist. That's not going to happen, boss. It's not happening. You will find what your métier, what your skill is, and you will reach there. You can go towards that, but don't limit yourself. So these are the two broad: litigation, non-litigation. In non-litigation, the field is very, very vast. And one very important thing you can do as a young lawyer is to help those with not legal representation, but just plain, simple, good legal advice. Many NGOs I know are running legal clinics only for that purpose, that people will come and ask them the question कि हमारा ये problem है, इसका क्या करें हम? And you will help that person clarify his or her thinking. And I think that is the most attractive part of the way non-litigation, NGO-ish kind of work is now increasing in society. Lots of NGOs will set up a legal setup where people who are their target audience will come and take advice from them. So, I believe my time is up. I hope I have not bored you guys too much. And thank you once again, Karnavati University, and all of you.